Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat for the week of March 20th, 2015. I am your host, Jose Otero, and this is IGN's Nintendo Show. Joining me this week, I have two special guests. First of all, Mitch Dyer, thank you so much for stepping up to join us this week.
Anytime, man. Super excited to be here.
Absolutely. And making his Nintendo Voice Chat debut, very good friend of the show, Francisco Velasquez.
Woo, hi. Thank you, Jose, for having me.
Absolutely.
Very excited.
So for folks who are listening, Francisco is actually one of our mobile developers. He helps. What do you do?
Yeah,
Tell the folks.
Actually, last week was my 1-year anniversary working for IGN.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Thank you. I've been doing mobile development with another coworker, Josh. So shout out to Josh. And yeah, you could contact me if you use our IGN app, either on Android or iOS. Just hit me up, be like, hey, yo, this is broken.
Yeah, which some people do, and you get to it, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. Cool, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And it's very relevant to have you both here this week because possibly the biggest story that at least people will be talking about potentially for years to come, this decision that happened Tuesday afternoon in Japan. Nintendo and mobile publisher or mobile sort of a systems platform supporter, DeNA, announced a team up to bring smartphone games using Nintendo IP to Japan.
Massive.
Like, that's your brain. That's what it sounds like. What?
Like, there's so many layers to this deal that blew my mind. Like, I was in Poland for work, and I was sitting at the breakfast table, and it was me and the UK IGN team. And we're watching all this happen, and we're like, oh, wow, like, Nintendo and DeNA are teaming up. That's really interesting. Don't know what for.
Yep.
Oh, wow, they're going to make Nintendo IP on mobile games. Oh, none of it's going to be ports. It's all going to be original games. Oh, Nintendo's doing all the development. DeNA is just the platform.
Yeah.
Like, they have the technology. Like,
That's
this is
all the stuff to
huge.
unpack. This is ginormous. Like,
This is all the stuff Iwata said they would never do.
Exactly. So first of all, exactly that. For the longest time, despite tremendous shareholder pressure, despite standing up at meetings while the company was losing money for the past 3 years, Nintendo's president, Satoru Iwata, would constantly say, we're not going to put our games on mobile devices. We would rather find a way to harness them, to direct people back to Nintendo IP. Turns out this became the answer. Like, what was your response? What was your reaction to this when you first heard?
2 years ago, I was really against this.
Wow.
I preferred to play Nintendo games on their hardware because I believe that their company is very good at innovating on hardware, and you could see the games like Zelda Skyward Sword that utilize the Wii Motion Plus. On the 3DS, you have Glass-free
3D. Yeah.
And on mobile, you just see this very just short games that you pick up when you're in a commute. And so I thought they would never approach that. And 2 years ago, I was really against that. I kind of wanted them to keep on going with their hardware. I also believe that going mobile would also cannibalize some of their
absolutely, and that's been the fear for a long time. Would it cannibalize sort of the games that they make and their own platform? Specifically, like, they're still dedicated handheld makers. The 3DS still exists. It's not going away, or it's not supposed to. They just put out a new 3DS a month ago in the States. But so you're saying you were against this. Does that mean you're not against it anymore?
Yeah. So now that they're partnering with DeNA, I'm a little bit more going for that decision. I believe that there's a huge space for them to take advantage of the massive numbers that are for mobile, iOS and Android. I feel like that really helps them out, and maybe they could focus more on their console front.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So to unpack some of this deal, Mitch has already gone into a little bit of it. But basically, Nintendo has said, first of all, as part of this Capital Alliance, which is what they called it, Business Capital Alliance, such interesting wording, both companies decided to purchase a stake in each other's company. It turns out that value of stake is $181 million. So that means that DeNA now owns 1.24% of Nintendo. Wow. Meanwhile, Nintendo now owns 10% of DeNA and is now the second largest shareholder, of that company.
That's, like, to me, that just shows this is not Nintendo going, well, we don't really know what to do, so we're going to try out this mobile thing. Like, this is Nintendo committing. They
Yeah.
are serious about this.
Yes.
They're $181 million, 10% of another company serious about this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's a great way to put it. Also, just talking about how DeNA is, so Nintendo's designing games internally. DeNA will distribute the games and create a membership service that stretches across smart devices and video game systems. Another thing Nintendo and Iwata has been talking about for a while. I mean, let's face it, Club Nintendo was more of a what do you call that? Sort of a members reward.
It was like a
program.
merchandise platform more than
Yeah.
a actual like connectivity service between users.
Yeah. Or just the idea of the user ID was even like
Yeah.
it didn't really fit Club Nintendo and the eShop.
And it had nothing to do
everything
with your
felt
player
separated.
profile. It was like the rewards program and your player ID were totally separate.
Yep.
Aside from, hey, I bought this game and now it's on my rewards profile.
Exactly.
But now it's this. What they're doing now, it sounds more like DeNA's platform will be an Xbox Live PSN-esque kind of service where your
Yeah.
devices are united. You can access your stuff on PC, on mobile,
Yep.
all that stuff.
And even Nintendo Network ID, to an extent, isn't really that, right? Like it's going to
Yeah.
be to some degree an improvement on that. All right, so then let's talk about ports. Flat out saying it, Iwata says, please note, even if we use the same IP, and by the way, any IP is up for grabs. It's Mario, Animal Crossing, doesn't matter. Nintendo's not putting restrictions on that. But anyway, going back to what he said, even if we use the same IP on our dedicated video game systems and smart devices, we will not port the titles for the former to the latter just as they are. There are significant differences in the controls, strengths, and weaknesses between controllers for dedicated systems and the touchscreens of smart devices. We have no intention at all of port existing games for dedicated game platforms to smart devices because we cannot provide our consumers with the best possible play experiences. It would ruin the value of Nintendo's IP.
Suck it, Square. They're throwing bombs,
Oh my
man.
God, yeah.
Square ported like all the old NES Final Fantasy games, and then more of them. Even like I think it's like 6 is
Yeah.
on there.
Yep.
All like Nintendo's like, nah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to use like virtual thumbstick trash. It sounds like whatever they're doing, they're going to tailor it to the platform. They're not going to just say, all right, let's just make a new Pokemon game with digital thumbsticks. They're going to do something to kind of accommodate the hardware, which is interesting.
Yeah, there are actually several really good games on the mobile platform. One of them is Monument Valley, and which just shows you that you could have an amazing game that doesn't have to have on-screen controls.
Yeah.
You could have a very deep gameplay and puzzles and taking advantage of the full hardware of mobile devices. So that's actually something that is very interesting to me, the fact that they're not just going to take a 3DS game and port it over and then deal with on-screen buttons where you're covering the entire screen. I'm actually hoping to see some interesting gameplay, not in Nintendo. I think they could pull something really interesting.
Yeah, and we've been. I feel like all of us, even though we've had separate conversations on this topic, all agree that the minute you put a digital D-pad or an on-screen D-pad and on-screen buttons, you failed.
Yeah.
In mobile development, honestly, I think you failed. Like that's not what it is for. It is a familiar interface for people, but it doesn't mean anything to an extent in terms of that. It's just not tactile enough. It's not. Your fingers are just sliding all over the place, and no matter how hard it takes to train yourself to accommodate yourself to that, it just doesn't work. I will say though that off the top of my head, franchises I'd like to see, and I'd like you guys to think about that real quick too. I'd love to see Rhythm Heaven on an iPhone or on a smart device. Like I feel like the one on DS had really played around with really simple inputs. I'm a big sufferer for music and rhythm games.
Yeah.
I really like sort of the energy and the flow of that series specifically because you're always part of a performance, and the game is full of in-jokes to remind you that you are. Like the minute you mess up, the guy to your left is like awkwardly looking over at you like, hey bro, get it together. Like we're out here performing. So I think that's a lot of fun. WarioWare is another example of something
very
I
similar
really like.
similar functionality to Rhythm Heaven, where it's just like short bursts, very quick input.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I'm at a loss though for Animal Crossing also makes sense, but I'm at a loss for like what does Mario or Zelda even look like? But before we tackle those, what are some games you guys want to see?
Tell you right now.
Has made?
Hold up your phone for a second, Jose. Just pick it up.
Okay.
Pokemon Snap.
Snap a picture
Yes.
in AR?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Like if you can use that in a 3D space, I think like Papa Sangre is this iOS game where like you have to actually like, stand up and like use your body and move it around, use like a 3D space to detect and move, like to navigate. It's really cool. If you could do that with Pokemon Snap, man, it'd be so great. Like if you're on the same tour, but you're just like moving around in 360 degrees to like find different Pokemon and trying to snap actual photos with your actual phone.
Yep.
So good.
All right. What's one you want? And you can think of another if you like. Yeah.
So Mario's one of my favorite characters, and Zelda. So like, I just would like to see sort of like adventure game style with Zelda, where it's not too confusing for players with controls.
Yeah,
But
or limiting in terms of by the controls either, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a challenge.
yeah, so if somehow they could mix up.
You know what game comes close to mind when you mention that though? Have you ever played Sword and Sorcery?
Yes.
You ever hear of that
Oh,
game?
man,
Did you play that?
yeah.
That is that's a very sort of Zelda-esque type game, but it's
but way slowed down.
way slowed down and also a lot more reliant on the world telling you a story
Yeah.
than sort of text bubbles and things kind of explaining to you. I feel like characters in Zelda kind of fill in the gaps, whereas it doesn't do silent storytelling. But Sword and Sorcery absolutely did that, and that's something that's really cool.
I'm wondering if Nintendo's gonna, and I doubt this will be the case because Nintendo isn't that developer. However, DeNA is. Like I was terrified when this deal came to be because DeNA is notorious for making games that are good, but what they are is they're just clones of other games.
Yeah.
They do clones of Clash of Clans. They do clones of Kingdom Rush. They do
Yeah.
everything they do is not everything. Most of the stuff they do is copies of other games with worse free-to-play models.
Mm.
And that sucks. And I hope that that's not something that kind of Nintendo takes inspiration from. I hope they don't do an Animal Crossing kind of Clash of Clans style city building thing.
Sure.
I
sure.
hope they don't take, a tower defense thing and just make it Kingdom Rush.
Well, it sounds like from the get-go, like Nintendo is being very careful and being outright saying, like, we cannot inundate Nintendo fans with, like, in-game purchases or
Yes.
just really.
So that
I
free-to-play
don't wanna call
Pokemon
it
game
sleazy,
probably
but-
isn't happening.
Yeah, I don't want to say like sleazy, but it is sort of sleazy, right?
Yeah.
But that sort of practice of constantly using hooks that can make you end up having to pay, sort of the pay-to-win model versus the the free sort of free-to-play
Yeah.
joy or something.
And Nintendo's never going to let Words with Friends ads pop up in the middle of your Zelda adventure. It's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
you better expect like a Pokemon game on iOS is going to be not maybe expensive, but definitely at a premium price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was actually thinking about Captain Toad.
Yeah.
Where
Perfect.
That game is amazing on the gamepad if you just translate that to an iPad.
Just have
Yeah.
Monument Valley controls.
Yeah.
Just
Monument
spin the
Valley
world,
controls.
tap a square, you're good to go.
Yeah. No, it's a really good suggestion. Yeah.
Super Mario Endless Runner, that's got to be inevitable,
No,
right?
I don't know if I
Gotta
want
be.
to. No, but that would be a clone in some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree, and I feel like Nintendo probably wouldn't want that to happen, let alone
You know
let
what?
it happen.
I want a Mario Endless Runner because Nintendo is so good at looking at an existing genre and going, okay, well, we're super creative.
Yeah.
Let's come up with 25 really cool new ideas and put it all in one game. And now that genre is way better than it ever was.
Yeah.
I would love for them to do that with an Endless Runner.
Give me Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
Oh
again.
my God.
But something like that,
Yes.
because that series, well, granted, no bongos because it's on a smartphone, but
No, you just play
that-
with like your iPad in the middle and two phones on the side,
Yeah,
and you
just
get different.
slap
so
each
good.
one. No, but in all honesty, like that series, especially, like it's sort of the precursor to a lot of the endless runners, and it wasn't an endless runner. I
Yeah.
mean, you had to sort of slam on either side of the drums to get him to move. But the way they designed the stages so that there were all these bananas you can grab and
Yeah.
enemies you can punch, and even the boss fights required sort of a punch-out-esque sort of timing minigame involved with them. That could be a lot of fun.
Local competitive Mario Party.
Okay.
I would love that. Like,
Okay.
Space Team is such a silly, dumb game. Artemis is a really awesome game
Space
for
Team is
local
awesome.
play.
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that
So
is
wait,
great.
Tell the people on the mic who don't know what Space Team is. Let's say there's
So,
5 people in the world who
Yeah.
aren't
So
sure.
if Francisco, Jose, and I are playing Space Team, we're each holding out our iPhones, and on there is like a control panel for a spaceship, and it's got a bunch of like made up lingo with weird words that are hard to pronounce. And we are each given an assignment to tell the other what to do. So I'm like, Jose, turn the Crosswaltzel up to 4, and he has the Crosswaltzel dial. And he has to change it from 6 to 4. Meanwhile, he's got to tell Francisco what to do to turn the Cronkle Donk off. And then while he's doing that, he's also like, I need you to not do anything. Like, you're just yelling nonsense at each other and trying not to take too long to accomplish the goals, or else everything fails.
Yeah. Have you played
Perfect
this?
for a Mario Party.
Yeah,
Played it
okay.
on iOS. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's all local multiplayer. You could do through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
All right. Awesome.
Local iOS gameplay is like seriously underrated.
Yeah, I feel like it's never spoken about enough, but I don't know if we. I just don't. This is all strange to me because I have to be honest with you. Like, my approach to mobile is to play the games that I hear everyone talking about.
Yeah.
For example, like Device 6. I played
Yeah.
that for those reasons.
You playing
Sword and
Pancake right
Sorcery.
now?
No,
that?
I don't want to play Flappy Cakes.
My phone's at
at
my
all.
desk.
That's Flappy Cakes. That's not pancakes.
Is that a
you know
thing?
what I'm talking?
What's
That's what
Flappy
I'm
Cake?
calling it.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what it feels like. It's just sort of the same sort of mechanics as
Just
that Flappy
just
Bird
flipping the pancake.
idea. Yeah,
That's a really good
instead
point.
of it feels like it's that same like I have to break my last score, and you are carefully trying to like do that.
And failing over and over.
And failing over and over, and it doesn't bother you. And but anyway, I'm not someone who really plays a lot of smartphone games. I play the occasional, I might play Republic, I might play,
Sure.
like I mentioned, Device 6. I think Device 6 is brilliant use of smartphone. If you haven't played that game, it is one that it's sort of a text adventure where as you're scrolling by these sections of text, there are sort of background elements, either mood music or noises or even transitions. Like you go to this one section of text, and instead of scrolling horizontally, they start making you scroll vertically, and you hear the main character walking down a set of steps. It is such a unique way to tell a story.
So great.
Which is not 100% signature of Nintendo games. Nintendo games don't always present story first. But it's still such a marvelous use of a smartphone and of using a device where you're using these sort of gestures as a way to do it. Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I was just thinking of all their great games that Nintendo makes, like that would be great for iOS. I was thinking about Professor Layton, Beat Agents.
Oh man. Yeah.
Mario vs. Donkey Kong, the one that just got released for Wii U and 3DS.
Tipping Stars, yeah.
So you're thinking more like eShop style, very small digital experiences. I mean, that makes more sense for the platform too than like a Link to the Past sequel.
Yeah, I don't even know what that could be like. That's why there's an awkward pause there. I'm just like, when does that happen? When is it Mario and Zelda? And what is going to be my reaction to it? But knowing that they're making those games gives me confidence that at least someone is going to take a hard look at what the device could do for that series.
Yeah, and also feel more comfortable about them doing this because I feel like even though they're going to be tackling the mobile space, I feel like if you still want the best experience, you're going to go with their consoles. Like, they're still going to give you a more develop Zelda on their console, so like I don't feel like they're gonna be diminishing those.
And I hope that holds true for them. So other side note for folks, DeNA currently publishes games we mentioned on the App Store and Google Play Store. No mention of who's getting these games first, if they're going to be launched simultaneously. I would imagine, from your experience, like if you're a mobile developer, like what makes more sense? Do you put it on iOS first? Do you put it on Android? Or do you do it on both?
Yeah, actually, Monument Valley recently released an infographic on how their sales did, and iOS is way ahead of Android. So it would make more sense to release them on iOS first. It's been proven that iOS users tend to pay more for games, so it would make sense for them to release on iOS first and probably Android later.
Okay, all right. And so this is my big question for you guys. Nintendo is the only company that I can think of today, except actually I'm not going to use Square as an example, even though on iOS this might be true of Square as well. They have stood their ground on the value of a video game. How much a game costs.
Square is 100% on that.
Yeah, and that it should not be the race to the bottom that most of the App Store / Google Play Store has been since, 2008, 2000, whenever those stores launched. What do you guys think this means? Like, do you continue to hold that line? What do you price these games at? I kind of look at it and just go like, what are they going to do? Like, they're up against stuff that's either free to play, which they have history doing. Steel Diver Subwars, like Pokemon Shuffle, like these aren't huge hits because they were isolated to 3DS, but these were still attempts by Nintendo to figure out how free to play works and present that to their audience.
Yeah.
They also put out they're all smaller games though. They're not larger games.
And there's still room for them to do that. There's nothing to stop them from saying like, all right, we're going to try this weird experiment and do a Pokemon game that's completely free.
Yeah.
And you get to buy Master Ball for $4 or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's room
or just
for that.
health to like keep playing or something like that. Yeah.
But I think the pricing of their games is obviously going to depend on what the games are and how long they take to make and the amount of people making them. And we really don't know what their development structure is. We don't know what their mobile dev teams look like yet. And I think once we start seeing the games trickle out and we see them start to experiment with pricing, I think it's probably going to change. I wouldn't expect if Nintendo releases something at $15 that it would necessarily stay at that price. It might
Has there been a success on iOS at $15? Like I kind of
That's
have
the thing,
to
like,
wonder.
Chaos Rings got like 2 sequels on iOS, and they were $15 each time. That was Square committing to like a new IP on iOS, an RPG, like a Final Fantasy style RPG at a very premium price. And every time they released one, it was like $15, $16, $17.
Yeah.
And it must have done well enough if they kept doing it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the closest one to that price is Minecraft. I think it still goes for $9.99.
Yeah.
And it sold quite a few on
Yeah.
iOS and Android.
Okay. So that's good to know. So then we should expect like the $10
Yeah.
to $15 range. But
XCOM was
because-
$20 as another example.
That's right. XCOM was.
Yeah.
Okay.
BioShock as well.
Okay. That port not as great as
Correct.
XCOM. Yeah, XCOM. I feel like they did a lot better work there.
Yeah.
But those are really interesting points. I'm curious to see how they tackle pricing. I just think
Me too.
that's going to really matter. Obviously, they have like 30-year-old IP that people recognize. Granted, that's also a bigger question. Like today's kids, do they understand the value of like a Nintendo IP? I
Yeah.
don't really know for sure, but I know that their parents do, and their parents know Nintendo, and so we'll, betting on just people recognizing their brand or recognizing Mario will give that person enough reason to buy that piece of software.
Yeah, well, and this is Nintendo, for the first time in a long time, being able to instantly access the youngest generation possible.
Yeah.
Like a 10-year-old kid probably has an iPhone at this point. Like I see kids everywhere. Maybe it's just a San Francisco thing, but like anytime I see a kid, they are on their iPhone and it freaks me out.
Yeah.
Guaranteed though, that kid has games on their phone.
Yeah.
And if Nintendo can reach that person or reach any kids with phones or with tablets, like if their parents, are showing their babies educational stuff on iPads, that baby's going to grow up going, oh, like games, iPad, got it. If Nintendo can reach those people, that's a massive market of people
Yeah.
that like would not necessarily have a 3DS or a Wii U.
But do you guys sort of subscribe to this theory that this is not going to diminish their work on? I mean, let's be fair. Like 3DS is what's making them money, but you compare 3DS sales to smartphone sales versus what DS did, and I hate to compare the devices back to back because obviously DS was released pre-iPhone, pre-App Store more specifically. So granted, it had that chance to just grab the entire market.
Yeah, well, this
That's
goes back
not the
to
case with 3DS.
Francisco's point about cannibalization.
Yeah.
So, the thing with bringing mobile games and still keeping your 3DS hardware, I think people are gonna see that you're able to get more full-fledged games, greater gaming experience. But the mobile games are still gonna be there for the more casual players, the people that just wanna, on their commute, just pick up a game and play real quick. But I hope that this venture doesn't really diminish or kind of affect their development on 3DS games, because 3DS games, like you take a Fire Emblem game or games that take a lot of development, those are really good.
No, they're quality, man, and you definitely don't want to risk that or lose that. And the big thing is, none of us really know what's going to happen here. Like, is this going to be the thing that spurs people to then become bigger Nintendo fans and buy other Nintendo hardware, or are some of them just going to stop at the gate? I like this game, but this is where I play my games. I'm not buying a $150, $200 additional device to get more.
If Nintendo were smart, which they seem to be getting,
Yeah.
with a venture like this is a huge step forward into like, welcome to the 21st century. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
If they keep up with that, they could very easily, one would assume, create some connectivity between platforms.
Mm-hmm.
They have this unified service between PC, 3DS, Wii U, and mobile. If you buy a mobile game and you can get awesome stuff in like the new Monster Hunter because you played the Monster Hunter or the Mario game on your iPhone, and you could, transfer that data, or like it would read your, like, oh, you bought this game and you played it, cool, I'm going to pull that data from the cloud and put it in the Monster Hunter on 3DS, and now you get like, more Samus skins or a Link skin or whatever. Like having connectivity between that would encourage people to play more Nintendo games on more platforms.
Yeah, and that ties into something else that I feel like Iwata said last year, where he was talking about the notion of rewarding people for being Nintendo fans.
Sure.
And the idea that we have to find smart ways to make them sort of, be cognizant of that and reward them for either buying certain games or maybe he was alluding to this. I mean, this is so crazy because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of move that, Nintendo is going on 126 years in business. This move could be the move that keeps them alive for another 100+ years. Like, honestly.
Absolutely.
And, it came down to they were opposed, but finally, hey, we have to try this, because if not, our current plan is not working. It's not. It's a success, but gaming handhelds are in a very weird place these days. Vita, for everything that thing is, it's such a sophisticated, amazing piece of technology. Unfortunately, just no one bought it. and the people who have it are very happy.
Yeah.
And that's not to dismiss those people at all. But 3DS Vita, like the dedicated gaming handheld, got put in a bad place because of smartphone games.
Pessimistic question. What if this mobile DNA Nintendo new venture thing fails? What happens then? Like, does Nintendo try it with somebody else? Do they persist? Do they go back to the DS? Do they try to amplify consoles? Do they try to unify console, mobile, and handheld in a way that they haven't before? Like, what happens if this doesn't work?
That's a great question. I think from a quality perspective, those games will be good. I just think the App Store is so competitive, there's no guarantee. So it's not even a pessimistic question. It's a realistic one.
Yeah.
I think if it doesn't take off immediately, someone has to take a hard look at price, content, and keep it going. Like, I don't think this is not a step that you take. This is a full step. This is not a half step. You're not just going to inch your way forward and say, okay, we're going to do smartphone games, which is the biggest announcement that this company has had in a long time, and then retreat from that. Like, they have to stay the course, or course correct, essentially. Look at what feedback they're getting on these games and why they're not doing well on that market. That said, I think, though, Nintendo needs to understand a little better what smartphone gaming is. Iwata made some comments to Time that I didn't think were the best comments to make. He sort of made it sound, and I can pull up the quote, but he sort of made it sound like the reason smartphone gamers like their games on their devices is because they're easy. And you know what quote I'm talking about here? Yeah. Can you speak to it a little more? Because I just remember reading and going, is this something you really want to be saying? Like, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he's played many of the top iOS games, but he did say something along those lines that iOS games are short or they're easy to play. And
what's your response to that?
Fools should play The Room.
Yeah, there's The Room, Monument Valley. There are really good amount of games that have really unique ways that you interact with the device.
Yearwalk has a lot of that, and the puzzles are really hard. Like, yeah, it's a short game, but it's not like it's not it's just like BS easy video game.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. So he was setting context. I'll just read the quote just so, and if we have anything else to add, we will. If not, we'll move on. Let me explain so that nobody will misunderstand. And there's a bit more context to this, but I'm going to do my best, so try and hang in there. I have never intended to dismiss the entertainment experiences that people are enjoying on smart devices or on any other media. On the other hand, my understanding is that on smart devices, the main demand is for very accessible games which smart device users can easily start and finish. These are not necessarily characteristics that people demand from games for dedicated video game systems.
I would interpret that in a way that is less like, oh, people want short games that they can throw away. I would assume that's something like you want a game like Threes, where you can play through something very, very quickly and get a full experience in a couple minutes, and then do it again and again and again. Like,
yeah.
And if that's the experience they want to create, where I want to keep coming back to the same Nintendo game and flipping the same stupid pancake over and over, awesome.
Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm glad you pointed that out, because maybe that's what that meant by easily start and easily finish. It's so weird with interpreted interviews because you can't always tell the intent, right? But it could just mean, hey, something I can take out of my pocket, start playing, and put it away just as fast. And Nintendo does have a catalog of games that are like that. That's why this struck me as odd, because it's not like that's a new thing. Like Tipping Stars works that way. WarioWare works that way. Rhythm Heaven works that way. There are so many IPs that they have that do in fact work that way. So why call that out? Why say that? Anyway, that is what that is. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that other thing that he dropped. Iwata apparently said during this conference, and something that to some degree he had to say. If you know what that is, don't worry. You're going to hear. If you don't know what that is, don't worry. You're going to hear that in 1 minute when we return. And we're back. Jose Otero here with Mitch Dyer.
What?
And Francisco Velasquez. What's going on, guys? We are going to talk about something that had... Okay, so let's just put it out there. This had to happen during this announcement.
So this is the thing that when I was in Poland and this whole thing was happening, I left to go to an event and I missed this. So catch me up. Yeah.
Okay.
I've since got like the gist, but like fill me in. What happened?
Sure. So Iwata, during the announcement that Nintendo and DeNA were going to be joining forces to make video games for smartphone devices using Nintendo IP, just dropped the code name of Nintendo's next system, which is a dedicated gaming hardware based on a brand new concept, is all he's willing to say.
Brand new concept.
And it is codenamed NX. Now, when I say this had to happen at this event, we all should know why. Because Nintendo does not want you, dear listener, or anyone who follows that company or purchases stock to think Nintendo is abandoning the notion of making their own hardware.
Yeah.
They just put out a new 3DS a month ago. They have a new console in the works. Everyone who listens to this podcast, hopefully by now you know, the minute a console ships, the next one's getting worked on. That's just the nature of this business.
Welcome
everyone's
to
living
R&D.
everyone's living in the future. This is natural. But dropping that code name had to happen here because he didn't want anyone to get skittish and say, "Wow, Nintendo's getting out of hardware?
Yeah.
What?"
Focusing on mobile, it's all over.
Yeah, or go the route of Sega. I mean, Sega was the last company, I think, that made hardware that did that. That said, we're out. We're going to instead go multi-platform.
What if this device is a smart device?
I don't think it is. So that's a great question. So first of all, for folks, we don't know anything about this thing. Even the greatest ninjas don't know.
Yeah. We didn't hear any rumblings about this at all.
This is locked down tight. So this is us sort of trying to figure out, or just speculate a little bit, or even toss out there. You brought up an interesting thing to me, which you should bring up later, about the current systems. Yeah. But I'm talking to Francisco with that. But yeah, a smart device. I mean, why would you get in bed to make smartphones? To make smartphone games and then make your own smartphone. I don't think Nintendo, if Nintendo wanted to make a phone, Nintendo would have just made a phone. Yeah, and I don't think they have the infrastructure to support that. I mean,
all right, so
more and more, though, you're hearing them, just to throw this out there,
fine.
You're hearing themselves describe themselves as an entertainment company.
Yes.
More and more, that they are, sort of they are responsible for a catalog of IP that's 30 years old, that's popular, that people know for the most part. So the idea to work on smartphones was simply because the opportunity is that big and they shouldn't be missing that. They can make money on it. And you know what? The stock price has been flying ever since this announcement happened. But back to NX, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm running through 25 different scenarios about what this thing could be, and a lot of them make sense, right? Okay, let's assume it's the next Game Boy. Cool, it's the new 3DS. It's the new 3DS. It's got all these new features. It's cool. Whatever. That's it. Got it. New portable handheld. Cool. What if it's also something that is, in addition to being like a new Game Boy, is compatible with existing Nintendo iOS games? What if there is some functionality that allows it to basically operate as a phone, like a touch screen, but it's also got, thumbsticks, 3D, whatever. Having access to 3DS games, new and old, having access to Google Play stuff that's on that store, or whatever marketplace, those mini games we talked about, wherever those exist, if that could all be on one machine, Nintendo now has a way to unify its new software on mobile and its existing software on Nintendo handheld.
Yeah,
that could be interesting. Could also be obviously like a Wii U successor, where it's a full-blown new console with some weird new technological concepts. It could be the thing that I've always dreamed of, which is a unification between home hardware and portable gaming. I don't know what that looks like, but the Wii U is basically a gigantic 3DS.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way for me to be able to take that gamepad on the go, perfect.
Yeah, but not be that big of a gamepad.
Right. What if the controller for my home console is just the new Game Boy?
What do you think?
Well, when I first heard the news, I thought it was gonna be the successor to the Wii U, and when they bring out that they're working on a brand new technology, that's actually
brand new concept.
Yeah, brand new concept. That's very interesting. So I just want to know, I want to be sure that that this new system that's replacing a really good, a solid hardware. Like the Wii U, of course, is not going to compete with Xbox, PS4 graphics, but the Wii U has really good games experiences. You have Mario Kart 8, you have Smash Brothers,
Pikmin.
Pikmin.
Yeah.
It's really good.
You can name and keep going.
Yep. I just want to know what this new system will do that will not follow on the same mistakes that the Wii U had.
Sure. So learning from the mistakes of Wii U, what could this system be? And I mean, flat out, the first one is stay away from the confusion. From the moment
Don't call it
of
Wii.
the announcement. Yeah, leaning on that name. I still remember the presentation, and I still understood it was a new device. But when I walked out and saw a lot of people who didn't understand what exactly this was, I could not blame them because, and it's been said to death, right? The name was a really poor choice.
Deeply confusing.
Yeah, deeply confusing. Like just something that.
Oh, can I play Wii games on it? Not really.
Yeah, and the controller. You remember leading up until the announcement, until they actually showed it, Project Cafe, and everyone talking about,
yeah.
There's gonna be a screen on it, and there was all this excitement. And then when it was shown, I think there was still some excitement. There was a ton of excitement, but then when the game started coming out and they didn't really figure out the best way to handle the concept, that's when people started to get, I feel, cold feet. There was confusion as to, okay, is this an add-on or not? But there was also, hey, the games that are coming out aren't fully taking advantage of what this can be or what this can do. And even if they were, it didn't feel natural. It didn't feel in line with Nintendo
I feel like they
games.
still have that problem to some extent. Like, we played some Mario Party last night, and I really wanted to play it with the gamepad.
Mm-hmm.
But my girlfriend had the gamepad, and it's like, well, I guess I'll dig out the Wii remotes. So, like, I know where those are.
Yeah.
And, how many people have enough Wii remotes to accommodate a party game like that, or Mario Kart, or even multiplayer in 3D World?
Yeah, but to some extent, like the number of controller options is convenient, but it feels like no game ever tracks them the same way. Like it feels like, for example, you can play 8-player multiplayer in Smash Brothers, and you can either do that using the GameCube controller adapter and just chain it together so you have 8, or you can use wireless, like Wii remotes and Wii Pro controllers, but even though one gamepad, but also that everyone just sort of loses track of which controller they are. Like it's like, oh, which finger is me? Like you have to kind of search for it for a minute, because even though you're holding a controller that you think you're player 3, you actually ended up player 5 somehow, and you didn't even know how that happened. Like, and that's more what I guess what I'm talking about there. But yeah, the fact that there is one gamepad and not a lot of ways that really took great advantage of it has kind of been an issue for them. For the longest time on this show. Oh, any other things before I move on to that? Any other things, the mistakes on Wii U that, they have to make sure NX does not do out of the gate, does not have out of the gate?
Does Amiibo continue on with this?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
it's
Amiibo's
got
here
to.
to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Selling too well.
Yeah, we asked at E3, and obviously the stock answer is, of course. Whether it did well or it bombed at E3, that was going to be the answer.
Of course.
But it is
now that it's doing really well.
Yeah, it's doing super well.
Yeah.
There's no reason to back away from it.
Brace
However,
yourselves.
Oh, more Amiibo. Don't do it. This
now you get
podcast
your iPhone Mario Amiibo.
No. iPhone doesn't have NFC, right?
No.
So the new iPhone 6 and 6 Plus have NFC, but right now it's locked down just for Apple Pay. So when you go grocery shopping, you tap your phone.
Yeah.
Right now the API is locked down. Hopefully at this year's WWDC, Apple will come out and say, hey, developers, you can now use the NFC. But so far right now, all you could use is Apple Pay.
Okay.
And then it'll be a race for Skylanders and Amiibo.
Exactly. Wait, is Android's NFC open then?
Yeah, it's open. There's actually a really cool app called Tasker where you could buy actual NFC chips from Amazon. They're like stickers. They're really thin. They're like $25 for 4 stickers. And what you could do is you download this app on your Android device called Tasker. You put one of those stickers by your nightstand at home when you're going to go to bed. You just put your phone down on that NFC sticker, and you could write instructions to that NFC. You could say, okay, when I put my phone down on this NFC sticker, turn off my alarm, put my phone in silent, turn off Wi-Fi. You could have one at your car, so that when you get to your car, you put down your phone on the sticker and it says turn on Bluetooth, connect to my car, start playing music, open maps.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Man.
Nice. That's pretty cool, man.
So Android has a full standard for NFC.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Then just to drive home that point about, what NX needs to do, NX just needs to not be confusing. From the minute people see it, people need to understand why it's cool, and you need that sort of what was so great to an extent about Wii, which at the time, let's face it, we all were reacting negatively to, it's still 480p, you're not going to be in HD. But the minute you saw someone use it, you knew what it can do. And that was such good marketing for them. That was so easy. And it fit that message of, we're going to try and bring in as many gamers as we can into this pool. But do they even keep doing that? Do they even keep trying that with the next dedicated gaming platform? Do you want to even see that?
If they have new concepts, that maybe that's what that points to, but I don't know.
I think it's very signature of Nintendo at this point to just have games that have a broad reach. And some don't quite capitalize on that reach, like Mario Party. Like, I feel like, there's a wide pool of people who like Mario Party, but there's always that group that's bummed out that it's not a better board game.
Sure.
But then you have games like Mario Kart that span the whole spectrum, and I don't think anyone's complaining. Like, I honestly haven't met too many people who complain about certain things in Mario Kart or in Smash Brothers or in the next Mario platformer. Zelda depends on who you talk to, I
And
think.
which game you're talking about.
And which game you're talking about, exactly.
Yeah. Games like that would be great, right? Games that are like more traditional, in big air quotes, but still allow people to play the way they want to. Like if you have a Pro Controller or if you have a GameCube controller, if you have a Wii Remote, like you can use those.
Yep.
Play how you want.
Yep. So then the last thing in terms of NX is that on this podcast for the longest time, contributor and awesome, he's on vacation, Per Schneider, constantly has been banging the drum about how he thinks the next system unifies both the portable and the
Hey, Per and I are on the same page.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
the
I'm
console. You guys have been. I guess you guys are together. And for the longest time, I have been against this. I have always
crazy
said,
man.
Well, hang on a minute. Let me get to my point. I have a couple of reasons why, and people who listen to this show know why. First of all, and I haven't articulated this reason, but I feel like it seems a bit too obvious. Like, what's the novel concept here outside of? I feel like for the past couple of years, like there have been plenty of companies that have been trying to find some kind of common ground between the game you take with you and the game you play at home, and a way to sort of transfer saves between them. I mean, I feel like
failed, Vita's failed at that. 3DS to some extent has kind of failed because like you just get two different versions of Smash.
And I also can't help but wonder what's so novel about that idea. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the lines are blurred these days where the portable game is not limited to a specific type of experience, because in the portable pool you can have a game like Tipping Stars and you can have a game like Majora's Mask that just came out. And when Majora's Mask first came out, that was a console game. Like, I think that's fine. And the more I think about that, it makes me wonder, maybe this is actually happening. My other reason, though, to be staunchly against this, honestly, is it just feels too obvious. Like, when has Nintendo been obvious? When?
Good point.
You tell me when. Like, you can see what was coming next and say, yep, it's going to be that. You couldn't predict the Wii. You couldn't have predicted Wii U. Like,
you couldn't have predicted a 3DS with a slightly better screen.
To be fair, I don't think you could have. Like,
They're never going to do that. Was everyone's response, and that
I feel like whatever hardware. Don't get me wrong. I don't need something that's a gimmicky console.
Sure, me either. I don't want that. I don't think any of us
specifically
don't want that.
Yeah, do you want that?
No.
Like a gimmicky sort of system? Yeah. I don't think any of us do. But at the same time, Nintendo has such a unique. They usually approach hardware in a unique way, in something that's cool or different. But that same thing that's different ends up ostracizing them from third parties. And they go, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make a game for this because porting it's going to be a pain. Or, like look at either from a controller perspective, look at from a graphics perspective.
How many more ways do we need to interact with our games? Like, I'm kind of over the amount of inputs we have, whether it's like it's motion or it's VR or it's touch or it's like 6-axis, wiggle the controller around a little bit. Like, I just don't need any of that.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Like, I am so fine with mouse, keyboard, controller. That's it. That's all I need.
Sure. No, and I agree with you. And I hope it's not a gimmick. And I hope that if it is that platform, so this entire announcement and hearing this has made me and seeing them approach a smartphone company that makes sort of has games in the smartphone market, just has me wondering, maybe they are combining them. The fact that they unified their hardware teams, portable and home console, a couple years ago. That's another clue. Like, I get what everyone is sort of excited about. I just hope it's more than just that. Because to me, that's not novel. To me, I want it to be something that at the end of the day, this is going to be an awesome console with awesome games. And to be fair, maybe their consoles aren't always awesome, but their games are always awesome. And that's what I'm looking forward to. What can I say, man? That's me.
See, I feel you, brother.
All right. Anything to add?
No.
Anybody?
I think I talked about everything that I had to say.
How about you?
Well, I was just gonna say about continue talking about the combining the mobile and console. I think that the hardware is kind of there right now. It might be too expensive. For example, if you get the latest iPad Air 2 and you buy an Apple TV, you could actually play a game on your iPad and display it up on your TV, and the graphics are really good. The hardware at CEO, he said that the iPad Air 2 had console level graphics.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
right.
which console he was talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, this could be
certainly better than the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, PlayStation 2. No, but it's really nice hardware. But It is expensive.
Mhm.
iPad 2s, they go up for upwards of $400, and we know Nintendo wouldn't release that hardware. That
At least that's been
expensive.
their philosophy for years, right? Keep
Yeah.
the Wii U is the most expensive console they have made, just like 3DS was also the most expensive handheld they'd ever made, and both of them struggled out of the gate as a result. Like, well, for other reasons as
Yeah.
well, but that being a principal one, because once
They want to
3DS's
reach
price
people.
came down,
They don't want to, like, if they're
Yeah.
prohibitive in any way, then they don't have customers. Like, the
Yeah.
reason we succeeded was like, hey, this thing's $200.
yeah,
Just here you go.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Comes with a game.
all 100% true. Oh man, I can't believe it.
It's exciting times.
Next
Too
year,
bad we won't. Next year, you think?
next year they talk about it. That doesn't mean it comes out next year. And if that's
I think
the case,
we see it in
You think you see
in
it?
2017.
it's out
No.
in 2017.
Maybe. But I think that'll be the first year
So,
we see it.
Whoa,
We'll hear a
whoa,
lot
whoa,
about it
back up.
next
So
year.
you're saying 2016 they talk about it, 2017 we finally see it,
I think 2016 they don't talk about it.
but they're saying they don't talk about it till next year. Like why? Like that's like his.
So 2015 they won't acknowledge it any more than they already have.
Why not?
Zelda. They don't want to dilute the new Wii U. Like
This is 100% true.
Wii U this year, like Zelda is Wii U this year. Anything that can dilute that, anything that can get people thinking about like, oh, there's something new. Forget Zelda. No, there's no way.
Yeah.
So it's all Zelda all year from here on out. 2016, it'll go one of two ways. One, they will announce a wide library of amazing new games for Wii U that will close it out in 2016.
Yep.
Or they'll go, we're out, so CWD3 with the NX.
Yeah.
But I really think that next year I don't know, man. Like, it depends how long this
But
thing's been
whatever-
in development. It depends how far along it is. But I
Yeah.
think that next year, like, they could conceivably keep pushing Wii U stuff and maybe talk about, like, next year we're really excited to talk to you about our new hardware initiative in 2017.
I think I agree with you a little bit, only because also if you think about it, so the one thing we didn't mention in the early part of the show is that these smartphone games, we're actually going to see the first fruits of them in the fall of this year.
Awesome.
Whatever they end up
That's
being, and they
great.
said they're not flooding the market with a bunch of games. They're only going to be very selective on how many they put out. But if that's successful, that can put them in a position where they could prolong what the next hardware
Yeah.
is going to look like. So I see it from that perspective, and absolutely no mention of NX will happen between now and next year. Not even a whisper. It's going to get shot down in every interview because
Yes.
as long as Zelda's on time,
Yep.
Zelda is the future, and Zelda is anyone who listens to this show knows how much we love the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
How big and important that franchise is to Nintendo and to a lot of people who grew up playing that series. And man, E3 better be the coming out party for Zelda, because if it's not, that is what sends cold feet to everyone.
Yeah.
Thinking that Zelda's delayed. What the heck am I going to be doing with my console this
No,
fall?
because then after E3, like a week later, they'll do the Nintendo Direct where they have everything, including the
don't do
release
that.
date, the 30 hours
do
of
this to me.
gameplay on live stream.
Don't do this to me.
You know it's coming.
What do you think?
That's never happened before, Jose.
Yeah, stop it. Just stop it. Don't troll me, bro.
No,
What-
yeah,
what's
they
up?
have to show us more so that E3.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll find out. Like you said, from whatever they show us, we'll find out if that game is coming out this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then there's still Star Fox. There's still Yoshi's Woolly World. There's still Mario Maker. I mean, Splatoon will be before E3, but that's out. This has been a much healthier year, at least for Wii U software. It feels like there are games throughout this calendar year that
We
are
don't,
actually
we don't know anything about 2016 yet, do we?
nothing. I mean,
Maybe
the only
2016 is NX's year.
no, let's not forget Xenoblade Chronicles X
Yes.
is also a 20. It should be a 2015 game. I don't think.
Believe it when I see
said-
it.
Yeah. Well, and Japan's getting it at the end of next month, I believe.
Oh, wow.
End of April.
Okay.
The question is, when does US get it? I think
Yeah.
US gets it like October if it's this year. No, but 2016 is still a big question mark. We know that, there are a couple of companies quietly working on things, like the Luigi's Mansion developer is working on things.
Oh, yeah, they're
Next Level
in
Games.
Vancouver, right?
Yes, and they
Okay.
have pledged to work with Nintendo, exclusively, at least for right now.
What's Retro doing? Where's the new Metroid?
Retro's
Maybe those are
working on
separate
something.
questions.
Yeah, like so there's going to be stuff in the pipe, and yeah, I agree with you that they could absolutely go silent on NX, but I do think that Nintendo does want to save face on the gaming hardware front as soon as possible, and I do think that is going to prompt them to talk about
If they
NX
had not
next year.
talked about NX this year, or this week, or this whatever, now,
this announcement.
we would not have thought about this until next year. Like, end of next year, I bet we'd be going, think it's about time. For
Yeah.
you. Like, I don't think we would, after E3 this year and after Zelda comes out, go, you know what? I'm kind of done with Wii U. I think it's time for something new in 2016.
Yep.
Don't think that'd be a thought in their mind.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a thought in Nintendo's mind. I think they did this, like you said, to save face,
Yeah.
and we'll hear about it in 2 years.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty safe bet. I'm gonna go if they talk about it next year, just because I think that they need to. It's unfortunate for Wii U, but I think it's time. I think it's just time to move on, and if not, maybe I'll agree with you in smartphone gaming, and the success there will allow them to prolong it because they'll be making money, potentially a lot of it. We'll see.
So if they do announce it next year and comes out later 2017, would the Wii U be the shortest living Nintendo console?
It could be. It could be. I think GameCube. Let's look that.
4 years, right?
Yeah, GameCube. Great question. Wish I knew off the top of my head. And
That's why we have Wikipedia.
That's why we have.
That's why we have just me vamping, talking about nothing at all, while Jose just takes his sweet time loading up this Wikipedia page to acquire the information that we need regarding the question about how long.
GameCube was. Should we go with Japanese release date or North American release date? I know it was a
Japanese
2001 console.
Start to finish.
Okay, Japan September 2001, and then But I mean, America got Wii first.
Yeah.
That was unprecedented.
Let's go from
So
first release, regardless of country.
Okay, 2006. They both came out the same year, regardless. So
Okay.
it was a 2001 release to 2006. Wii U was released in 2012, unless
Yeah.
I'm crazy.
So that would put it, if my theory's right, about 5 years.
All right. And I don't want to date the death of Wii U, man. I feel
Hey,
like
it's so
I feel
early.
bad for anyone who's listening to this. They're like, I'm not buying this console. I'm done.
No, Wii U's got a lot of life left in it.
Yeah, November 2012. That would mean, if 2017 was the date, what we're talking about, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, so 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, before they move on, and that could still happen. You know, there's life after Zelda, but man,
A Wii U
that Zelda
Metroid game,
reveal.
man.
And
Where
a
is
Wii U
that?
Metroid game.
Where is it?
I think it's inevitable. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. Hopefully you're still with us. And we have been talking endlessly about this DeNA deal and this NX deal. And it's only because this is possibly the biggest thing you're going to hear about for a long time. I don't think anything as big is going to happen this year except whatever we hear at E3.
You're making the future of NVC sound really bleak.
I hope
We're never
not.
going to have anything interesting like this to talk about again.
Oh, we're going to have plenty of interesting things to talk
Yeah,
about.
you
You know
are.
what else we have? We have a bunch of other... Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do we know when we'll be seeing the first DeNA mobile games?
Oh, yeah. They said
Fall,
fall.
fall.
Yeah, fall 2015.
And
Yeah.
also, are you gonna be reviewing most of the games?
I don't know. We'll find out.
It's a mobile game. It'll fall
yeah.
to me and Marty.
Yeah, I'll be like, yo, somebody. I don't know if I could do this. I'm not. We'll see. It depends on my on my interest level, but I would defer totally to Marty and to Mitch, just because I know they play a ton of mobile games and they have some really good expertise there.
So next time I see you, you're gonna be
Sad
playing
Panda.
on your iPhone instead of your 3DS.
Man, if it's fall 2015, I'm playing Zelda.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, please make sure that comes out this year.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. All right. Well, thank you for listening to Nintendo Voice Chat. We are a part of IGN. We are a weekly show, and we're not the only thing on IGN. There's plenty of stuff for you to do here. You can head on over, read some previews. We have some cool stuff hitting the site on Monday. I can't tell you what it is,
Ooh,
but I
know what
can
that
tell
is.
you it'll be fun to read, so you should definitely check that
Uh-huh.
out. Also, Mitch is a regular contributor, on Podcast Unlocked, which is IGN's Xbox show. It's really good.
As well
Everything
as IGN
Microsoft.
Arena, our esports podcast.
That's right. Very good.
YouTube.com/IGN Arena. Subscribe.
Yep. And they're doing some really cool stuff there.
Mhm.
If you have any complaints about the IGN mobile app,
Or good
Francisco-
things to say.
or good things to say, and you should say
Yes.
good things. People are
5
working
stars, please.
5 stars on the App Store and Google Play. Francisco, and soon it's going to be just you. You're going to be leading that for a little bit, hopefully, or working on it, for a while. So I'm looking forward to hearing more from you and what kind of cool stuff you're cooking up. All right,
I want everyone who's listening right now to go review the Android app and just give it 5 stars and just talk about Francisco.
yeah.
Don't talk about the app. Just talk about how great Francisco is.
Wow.
Got a great voice. Just a handsome man. 5 stars.
5 stars.
Nice work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you can find. Before I announce Twitter handles or let you guys say Twitter handles, really quickly, if you have feedback on the show, make sure you email us at nvc@ign.com. As a matter of fact, we should come up with a question of the week for people because we haven't had one in a while. What's a great question from this week's episode that you think we can drop on people? Anyone who's faithfully still listening with us after 55 minutes.
I have one.
What do you got?
What launch game would you like to see on the NX? If you could pick any. I know Zelda would be hard because there's a new Zelda coming out, so it would be almost impossible.
So Zelda's not on the table.
All right.
Not on the table.
What is the launch day killer app for NX?
Yeah, what do you want to see?
What's the game that would get you to buy an NX day one?
I have the answer already, but you're not going to find out till next week. I'll ask you guys for the answer. Yeah, that's right. I said it. But yeah, there you go. If you're going to answer that question, email us, nvc@ign.com. In the subject line, write QOTW NX launch game.
Very specific.
Yeah, well, I like
you
to know.
run a tight ship here.
I
on
run
NBC.
a tight ship on this one, and we'll read some comments next week. I absolutely promise. All right. So, lastly, Twitter handles. You can find Mitch Dyer at
Mitchy D.
You can find Francisco Velasquez at
Kikin81.
Spell that, bro.
KIKIN81.
All right, and you can find myself, Jose_Otero. Thank you very much for listening / watching, and we will be back next week with more Nintendo Voice Chat.